Go.
Sometimes, what do you mean go? What do you mean go?
Well, you turn that off.
Sometimes I just.
Push the wrong button.
No, I just want to let the intro music go for a little bit. It is a non-snowy morning down here in the valley.
I got here extra early because I was expecting lots of snow, and I'm not driving the 4Runner today, so I was a little concerned.
Yikes! I took it easy once I finally realized that it wasn't going to be snowing, as I was up all night waiting for the 18 to 20 inches that I was supposed to get up in Bountiful. But hey, thank you. It didn't happen. But for all of you out there, you're listening to Prepper Talk Radio here on AM 630, K Talk Radio, and Happy New Year. We're brought to you by Survival Medical.
That's right. It is a new Happy New Year's.
It is.
Sorry.
It's fun. I was actually talking to a friend the other day about what we do here at Prepper Talk Radio, and he was kind of blown away that we have this show. He's like, wow, you actually have a prepper radio show.
I don't know of any others.
On the actual radio, not a podcast.
That's right.
And yes, it is a real radio show. It is a real...
And we make real mistakes right here live
We
on
do.
the air.
I've got Jason over here flapping his hands at me like I'm a crazy man.
What do you want us to do? Yeah, bring
Oh,
the
he
sound.
wants me to turn that down more.
Bring the audio
All
down
right.
a little bit.
The background music's off. But no, he was really
distracting.
astounded. And I told him honestly, I'm like, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the fact that we've got listeners who showed up in mass at PrepperCon.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it all started for us. And then our sponsors jumped in and they're like, let's do this. K-Talk was really interested in us coming back and doing a show, and our sponsors were really interested in us coming back and doing a show. So a special thank you to Survival Medical. They're our main sponsor. They're our show sponsor here, and they make it possible for us to do this show. I love their products. I love the organization. The owner over there, John, is just a fantastic guy. So if you have a need for first aid, go to survival-medical.com and get your gear. The thing I love about John is he's been doing this. I mean, he's lived completely off-grid, and he's been completely back to the Lander group. So he knows what it's like and what it's going to be like, if and when the crap hits the fan and when we lose electricity or we lose our normal way of life. The end of the world as we know it, right? So it's imperative today, I think, that we talk about kind of the basics. Back to the basics, beginning of the new year, a lot of people, they're setting resolutions to get better prepared. They're setting goals, hopefully, because resolutions suck and everybody breaks their resolutions.
I was going to say.
Every study out there shows that resolutions are crap. But goals, on the other hand, are great. And here's why. A goal isn't a goal until it's written down, right? I like to take it a step further. A goal isn't a goal until it has actionable items attached to it and a deadline.
Exactly, some kind of timeline.
If you don't have a timeline, it's not a true goal. You're not working towards it. I mean, I set a fake goal a year ago to get my ham radio operator license. Mm-hmm. I never put it to pen.
And you still don't have your ham
And I
radio.
never put a deadline on it. So it's not a true goal. It was a wishful thought. Mm-hmm. So today we want to talk about kind of Prepper 101, back to the basics, set up your goal. Hopefully this show will give you some good ideas, but set up your goal and get going.
Now I've set more of objectives rather than a few goals, but a few objectives that I want to have done by the end of the year and throughout the year. And you and I have made some goals as well for the show and such.
Absolutely.
One goal that that has hit me really hard, especially over this last month since it's been so darn cold, is to have a wood-burning stove in our house, or at least on the side of my house, so I can put it in my house. If and when we lose power, I have that option available, because it's just so painful when you don't have heat in your home.
Absolutely. One of my friends, actually, they ran out of propane fuel. They live more off-grid than some, but not completely. They're connected to the electrical system, but they're not connected to anything else. Well, and water, but they don't have gas. They don't have sewer because they've got septic. So they've got their own propane tanks, and those went out in the middle of the winter, just last week. And they were freaking out because they're like, we don't have a backup
Any
to
other
this.
way.
So they luckily found someone that had a solution for them that could do delivery on the weekend for propane. And filled their tank. Prices went up 40 cents between that Saturday and the following Monday. So they were really glad it went out when it did, but they went a day and a half without heat. So it was like 40 degrees in their house, and they had no heat source. They took out the wood-burning stove when they bought the house because it was no longer to code and it was a problem. But they didn't have a backup solution. So here I am, good friend. I'm ready to drive the 2.5 hours to their house with my propane heaters. I've got construction propane heaters and the 15-pound tanks. And I've got 2 of those in the back of the truck, 3 heaters, and one of them is electric. The other 2 are propane. And I'm like ready to go. And I'm like halfway to his house, and he's like, "Oh, hey, some guy's able to deliver propane right now." And I'm like, "Oh, well, all right. Well, I'll just turn around then." But that's my thing because I don't have a gas log or gas fireplace or I have fireplaces, but they're in the most ridiculous locations, right? They're not centrally located to warm the whole house.
But at least you have them.
So at least I have them, but then my wood supply is very, very small.
But you have trees in your backyard.
I've got trees in my backyard, but green trees don't burn very well.
But they do burn.
They do burn, but they don't burn very well. It takes a long time.
Yep. So that's part of my plans this summer as well. Before this coming winter, have a wood stove of some kind and a stash of a good stockpile of wood for next winter, just in case.
Just in case.
Because it's been worrying me this entire winter of how cold it is, and it would not be good if we lost our heat.
Yeah. Another fun thing is utilizing your windows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our windows can create a lot of heat in our house if they're getting the sun exposure that we want. But you can also increase that with an additional layer of plastic farther away, and you're actually creating kind of a magnifying glass, right?
Okay, right.
So I've seen guys do that.
Trapping in some heat.
I saw one guy actually take the I think it's called a Ferrell lens out of his TV.
Fresnel
lens. Thank you. And put it in his window.
Well,
that was a bad idea.
Start a fire in your house.
But I thought that was pretty funny. But that get creative with the things you can try.
So if you've got an old big screen TV, one of those old boxy ones, most likely you have a lens. It's just a flexible piece of plastic that is contoured, and it's a magnifying glass, essentially. So you can pull that out of that TV before you throw it to send it to the junkyard, and take out the big magnifying glass out of the lenses. A lot of great uses for starting fires and, like Scott's saying, improvising.
Burning your house down. I mean, there's a lot of fun things you can do with that. So without ado, let's kind of start off with the simplest of simple, the basics.
Now, I'm thinking I want to go way back.
Okay.
I mean, way back. Is back almost as far as you can possibly go.
So you're talking cavemen.
No, not quite that far. I'm talking Old Testament.
Okay.
So you've heard me say a number of times, to prepare for the future, you need to look to the past.
Right.
So I think a lot of us as preppers, we look toward coming events, which some of those, obviously, the ultimate event is the second coming of Christ, which I think we're all preparing for. All of us Christians are preparing for.
Well, I wouldn't say all of us.
Well, we should be.
It should be.
I mean, that's why we're preppers.
Don't.
Right. Okay, so I will try to choose my words a little more wisely and try and keep my pace down a little bit. So we know what's coming is 7 years of famine, 7 years of, what do you want to call it, of trials, right? But before that, we have 7 years of plenty. Prosperity. And what I've been thinking about lately, okay, how to identify those 7 years of prosperity? Because those are a little bit easier to identify than, okay, when does the 7 years of tribulation, when does that start? So let's look back toward Joseph of Egypt, right?
Okay.
They had the same situation. 7 years.
For those of you non-biblical scholars, you may have seen Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
There you go.
Which is close to the story.
There you go. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Follow along.
Okay. And so, obviously, Joseph was sold into Egypt. He interpreted Pharaoh's dream. Pharaoh had this dream of these stalks of corn, some slim ones and some fat ones, and the slim ones consumed the fat ones, and so forth. So Joseph interpreted that dream that there would be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So what did they do to prepare for the 7 years of famine?
They created a stockpile, a system where they brought everything into the storehouse.
They were prepping
so that they could then use it, in the future for the 7 years.
And how much did Joseph gather of all the crops those 7 years? How much did he gather?
I don't remember.
1/5. So 20% of everything, all the crops that were grown, were stored. So if we apply that to our lives, whether we are in the 7 years of plenty or whether we've started the 7 years of tribulation. I don't know where we're at. I really don't know, and we could talk about that
That'd be a
another
big show of speculation. So.
Yeah, I mean, some people think, okay, it started 2001 through 2008 before the financial collapse. I mean, I think it's still difficult to pinpoint. But regardless, I still think we have very little time. I don't think we have 7 years before we get into really hard times. And what I'm talking about really hard times is the end of the world as we know it is the way I like to refer to it. Life changing, lifestyle changing.
People hear that phrase and they think the end of the world. They forget that as we know it part.
As we know it.
The as we know it part is the most important part of that phrase because it's a complete life change. It's not a life-ending event. It could
for
be,
some,
but it's a life change event.
Exactly.
So as a human, we're very adaptable if we'll allow ourselves to be. That's part of our nature. And so we can get through these things, but a lot of times people just don't prepare for it. I mean, if you look at the animal kingdom, animals prepare.
Yeah.
They're
absolutely.
always stockpiling.
I've got squirrels in my backyard. They're constantly running the fence, picking up the acorns and stockpiling them for the winter.
Well, and the interesting thing is all these animals are doing. I mean, if you look at the hibernating animals, they're stockpiling in their bodies because their bodies allow them to withstand the harsh climate of the winter and sleep through it, right? So they're stockpiling for when they need it, and then when things change, they're adapting and ready to go for those things that change. And then you look at the human beings.
And they move around too.
And we don't do that.
No. Because things are too convenient.
We think we're above that. We think we don't need to. Or as a society, there's this mass misbelief that we don't have to worry about it because we're going to be taken care of.
And that's part of absolutely. And I think here's another aspect that I think a lot of us we have faith, right? We count on our Creator. We have faith that everything will turn out fine. That Heavenly Father God will take care of us. And I think absolutely that's true. But He has also commanded us to prepare for hard times, to save up and store. And so it is not lack of faith or showing a lack of faith in order to store food and to store supplies. It is a showing of faith in what we've been taught. So looking back to Joseph, them storing 20% of over those 7 years of bounty, they stored up 20%, 1/5 of all their crops. So what should we be doing? Regardless of that point, we should be taking 20% of our income, if not more, because we don't know where we're at. I mean, we have no idea. And putting that into food. I mean, primarily food, water, ways to purify water. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
Yeah. So in the next couple of segments, we're going to talk about the emergency rule of 3, and we're going to talk about the survival priorities, right? A lot of people think, I need to get prepared. I'm going to go buy a bunch of food storage. That's like the last thing on your list, and especially if you look in the mirror and you find that you've got those extra love handles and you don't need as much as you think you need as soon as you need it. The problem that you're going to face is this thing that I like to call hangry, where you're hungry so much that you're angry. And that's a psychological problem that we've given ourselves because we're just so focused on the appease me now lifestyle that if we're like, I got to wait 10 minutes for food,
people don't
I'm
want
angry.
discomfort. We don't want to be inconvenienced.
So we're going to jump back to the very beginning and talk about the most important thing, which is shelter, right? And that's not always a building. It could be your clothing, a second layer of clothing, a third outfit, a big giant poncho in the truck that you keep there in the car just in case, extra winter boots and gloves. I keep an extra poncho, insulated poncho and gloves, thinsulate gloves, work gloves in the truck, an extra pair just in case.
Especially now. I mean,
oh, yeah. Even during the summer, I've got those big gloves and work gloves and other gloves, but you need to have shelter.
Yeah, and imagine if you get stuck and you got to be down on your knees, in the snow. That's just not any fun if you don't have the right gear.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is if you look back, 30, 40 years, the size of homes then compared to now, it was so much easier to keep those homes warm during the winter.
Yeah.
It was so much easier to keep those homes taken care of. Now we've got all this space, this big, huge, great open floor plan that
all the heat goes to the vaulted ceilings up high. And
it's contrary to keeping your house warm during the winter. And it
does help your house keep cool in the summer.
It does help you keep cool in the summer, but the thing that we've got to worry about is the winter. The winter's the bigger problem.
Yeah, I can deal with the heat a lot more better than the winter cold.
True. So the thing is we need to think about, okay, if we lose power, if we don't have shelter, what are we going to do to create that shelter? You know, part of that's warmth. We talked about that at the beginning of the hour. Making a heat source for where you are. And we're running into a break. This is awesome. We can keep talking all day, but we won't. We're going to jump into the commercial break. Reminder, we are brought to you by
Broadcasting live from the
Survival-Medical.com.
top of the Rocky Mountains. K-Talk Media.
Oh, yeah, all the way down.
All the way down. Hopefully it's not broadcasting any sound right now other than us.
No, it's not. It's good.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So you're back. You're live. You're here with Prepper Talk Radio, brought to you by Survival Medical, survival-medical.com. Tougher than nature, and it'll last up to 20 years.
Got to get some.
So jumping back on the priority list, right? We're talking about shelter, the importance of shelter, and what that means is slightly different in any scenario.
Mm-hmm.
You could, for example, be out in the woods right now and outside of our range, so you won't hear this wonderful tip. But I mean, you could be in a snow situation. We've got tons of snow coming, 16 inches in some areas, supposedly hitting in Utah right now. Ogden and North have been nailed, but you can build a snow fort, a snow cave, right? There's some things about it I would recommend before you just try to go survive in one. Understand the science of making one. Definitely put your lying down your bed area up a little bit, because there is going to be, with your heat in there is going to be some ice melt. And you're going to want that to run, the moisture to run down and lower so that it's not where you're sleeping.
The three rules of winter camping, winter activities: stay dry, stay dry, stay dry.
Yep. And so we want you to be thoughtful about what you're putting in your car, what you're carrying with you. We talk about everyday carrier, EDC, a lot. It's always good to have extra blankets in the car.
No reason not to.
Just because. I mean, even if it's just, hey, there's an accident on the freeway, you got to park the car for a while. Another reason why to always have at least a half a tank of gas in your car, because you don't know how long you're going to be stuck somewhere. My wife likes to watch this show that airs. It's a Canadian trucking show, and these guys are rescuing the big rigs. It's called like Hell's Highway or something like that.
Oh yeah,
and or Highway Through Hell. These guys are rescuing big rigs that get trapped in these snowstorms and go off road and just mess everything up. And people are stuck for literally 12 hours on the freeway until these guys can clear the road. Now, can your car idle for 12 hours on the freeway with less than a half tank of gas? Probably not.
I don't know.
I've never had to do it. But that's one of the issues they've had, is people will sit there and idle in the middle of the winter and just try to stay warm, and they'll idle and they'll keep the heat running, and then those cars have to get rescued as well, because now they need gas.
They run out of gas,
right? So always make sure you've got at least a half tank of gas in your car, and blankets, because you can use those blankets both for keeping warm, but also for medical emergencies. You know, if you see someone going into shock, you see, an accident happen, you can be there with blankets to help take care of things. So, and then also as a change, if you get soaked, you got to get out of your wet clothes. Wrap yourself in blankets. There's always a use. Also shelters. I mean, your car is a good shelter.
Absolutely. Yep.
A lot of people will abandon their car because they're like, "Oh, I'm in search of somewhere safer." If you're visible, stay with your car.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if you're out snowmobiling or skiing or whatever, and you're away from your car, then you definitely need to learn shelter building techniques, and maybe take a tent with you, or some kind of shelter, or a bivy sack, or something that will contain your body heat and keep you dry. And that should be an essential anywhere you go. If you're leaving your vehicle, if you're leaving your home. Other than that, you've got your home for shelter. You've got family. There's plenty of people. If you find yourself out and being stuck, someone's going to take you in. You're going to have some kind of shelter. But yeah, a good jacket. I love Gore-Tex. Can absolutely save your life. Keeping you dry is the number one. You can be cold, but as long as you're dry, it's obviously when you're wet, you're losing temperature, and you can go into hypothermia very quickly.
Right. Well, the number one killer in the woods, in the wild, is exposure. And it goes for the summer as well. Hypothermia. Yeah. It's a rapid change in core body temperature, right? And it can go either way. It can go to the heat side. It can go to the cold side. So don't think, hey, we're in Utah, we're only talking about the winter. Summer can be a killer as well.
Yeah.
See a lot of people dehydrate and die so quickly. Yeah. I mean, there's stories everywhere that you can read. So every season has its unique way of killing you.
Even an umbrella. A nice large umbrella, keep the sun off of you or keep you dry. Great prepper item too.
Absolutely.
A really good umbrella.
So I think that kind of wraps it up for shelter.
Yeah, and I guess a few last comments for me in being a prepper and preparing is keep your home maintained. Watch your shingles, watch your roof. Just make sure that you're keeping up on maintenance. You're not getting behind, because when the hard times hit, it may be impossible to do that kind of work. You may not have the ability to get a quick loan for a roof, to put a new roof on, or maintenance, or whatever, do a home equity, whatever a lot of people do to improve their homes. They don't always have cash to do that. That's my goal. That's why I don't have a new roof yet, because I'm saving up cash to do a new roof. I'm not going to finance it. And so that's my 2 bits of advice there. Put your money into your home.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the gas tank half full
There
philosophy.
you go. Yep.
For your house, make sure the maintenance is kept up. Things like your furnace, things like your roof.
Yep.
If you're taking care of those, they're not going to break down as easily.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you are in a bad time, it's one less thing you have to freak out about.
And try and do the work yourself. Last
it.
night, my the pressure, temperature and pressure valve on my water heater failed. So I had to run to Home Depot and buy a new one. It was a really quick, easy fix. Cost me $12 for the part. But
had you called a plumber, it would have cost you $89 for the first hour.
Plus at least
$35-$40 for the part.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It would charge me 2-3 times what the part actually cost. So I jump on
he's gotta
YouTube.
Charge it taxes. He's got to charge it shipping and handling.
And it was
which
after
is
hours,
him
too.
going and picking it up and coming in. Oh, and then if it's after hours, there's a premium.
Yep, exactly.
So not to say that that's not a fair deal, because these guys got to get paid. But if you learn to do it yourself, then you're taken care of in a situation where you have to do it yourself. There's no one else.
And if you don't know how to do it yourself, of course, there's always YouTube. But make connections. I have a good friend who's a plumber. I sent him a text. Hey man, what do you think? He says, 80% most likely it's the valve. Just go get a new valve and swap it out. I'm like, done.
Sweet.
And it was fixed. It was a quick fix, and it was relatively painless. So
we got a caller. Let's see what they've got to say about the same topic. Hey, caller, thanks for joining us here on the air. What have you got about survival rule of 3 and winter survival, doing it yourself?
I want to talk about the bug-out clothing.
okay.
I don't have a computer. My friend just looked it up for me a minute ago, but he says I have to come over and look at this stuff. Do you sell bug-out clothing?
We don't. We're not a store. If you're looking for like the winter clothing.
Yeah. Do you know anything about any of that?
Are you referring to the Fortress that you hear commercials?
Yeah, Fortress clothing.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
So it's great for light duty, medium duty, light duty work. It's not I'm going to go cut down trees type of clothing, because you will overheat in it.
That's when you want your Carhartt.
Yeah, that's when you want your Carhartt and your wool, and anything that wicks water away from your body. But for just survival, it's fantastic. They've got 2 different types, negative, I think, 30 and then negative 70. You don't need the negative 70 unless you're living in Alaska. Otherwise, it'll just be too hot and you'll be sweating inside.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Well,
that is a good
great.
option as shelter, absolutely, to have some very warm layers. And I like layers, and not really bulky layers, but multiple thinner layers, so you can regulate your temperature better. So that's the way I like to go.
Absolutely.
Hey, what do you think about those yurts? Is that how you say it?
A
Those
yurt.
things that the
I love
Mongol...
yurts. I think they're fantastic.
They're good.
I've seen that. I saw an article at someone's house, and they cut it out, and they said I could take it, out of a magazine. And people are living in these in a little city. I forget what I didn't. Okay, I forgot. It's in my kitchen. I'm not looking at it right now, but these people live in this community, and they're living in those.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Year round.
Year round. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's one of those types of shelters. It's small. It's very strong for the
Somewhat
shape.
portable. Yeah.
It's portable. There's a lot of different types of shelters that are like that. I mean, there's geodesic domes. There's yurts. The ones you want to stay away from are your little dome tents. Those are not year-round
Not
livable.
4-season, typically.
Yeah, it's not a 4-season. Most tents aren't 4-season. Anything you buy for under $400 is not going to be 4-season.
But it's still better to have something than nothing, too.
Yeah.
So the tent is still a very viable short-term shelter option.
Are they like $20,000? Do you have any idea? I guess I can look it up.
The
right?
yurts are probably at least that much.
So you can
they
get
come insulated, and you've got to build a platform for it. And
you can get kits starting at around $6,000, but they don't come insulated, and they don't have the rigid wall system. They're a pole wall system that you have to then insulate.
Yeah,
back and
kind of
forth.
cheap.
So
but the true big, nice ones you'd live in year round are probably
they
somewhere
start around
that
20
price.
to 30,000 for a 20-foot diameter yurt.
Yeah.
So
Are these like portable? Like you can just
they're
somewhat
collapsible.
They're
so
somewhat
you'll
portable,
need a trailer
Mhm.
or large truck bed
Yeah.
to put them in,
Okay.
but they do break down.
Oh. Okay.
But yeah, take a look at the Vital Domes. Those are fantastic options too.
Vital Dome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vital Domes
Okay.
are a geodesic dome shelter,
Okay.
and you can put in your own insulation options. They start around right now. They're on sale. I think like
Mm-hmm.
$39.50, and they're 24 foot in diameter, 14 feet tall in the middle. And if you get a wood stove in those, they work like a convection oven, so you'll actually stay pretty warm. You don't need a whole lot of insulation in those. But
Where do you get these at?
Just online.
Yep,
Online.
Vital Domes.
Okay.
Or come to
Okay.
PrepperCon.
Yeah, vitaldomes.com, or if you come to PrepperCon April 21st and 22nd at Southtown
Gosh.
Expo, they will be there.
I went there 2 years ago in the parking lot. Everyone, there were so many dang people. I said, I'm not.
Yep.
I just went home.
I
missed
It was
out.
in
Do
the
that too,
afternoon.
yeah.
I showed up for the
You'll wanna
first
make
one.
the
I went,
effort to be
oh
there.
my gosh, there's all these people. It was out in Southtown.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your call. Sure appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Bringing up that
Thank
topic.
you.
Good topic.
Those are both two really good, really great shelter options. And they're not your I'm going to live in this forever type solution for most people. A lot of the people that I know that build a yurt and live in a yurt, they live in it for a few years while they build a more permanent structure.
Yep.
Or if they're kind of I'm going to move around type of person, then they stay in it and they just move it to a new location. Same thing with the people who live in domes. They typically tend to move them after a while.
Well, the Native Americans, obviously, they had their teepees, which are a lot like a dome, but probably collapse a little bit easier than taking the dome apart. But
Well, you need a horse to drag the poles.
yeah, you got to drag it around.
or make new poles when you get to where your new location is. But shelters is very important. However that breaks down to you, whatever that means to you, you need to have a shelter solution so that you can survive harsh changes in weather conditions. The next important thing at this point is then your water. So the emergency rule of 3 is simply this: you can survive about 3 hours in inclement weather changes. Drastic changes, harsh weather, you're good for about 3 hours. After that, then you start lobbing off fingers, toes, possibly dying from exposure, well, I can't say and worse, but that's as bad as worse would be
bad.
surviving and being comatose for the rest of your life because you didn't
losing
stay warm.
limbs and so forth.
The next one is water. The human body is made up mostly of water, and we tend to forget that very quickly, and we don't hydrate with the proper hydration. Simply just putting water in our body. A lot of times we're putting sodas in our body, which actually rob us of hydration. They rob us of oxygen in our bloodstream. So a lot of the things that we think we're hydrating with aren't really hydrating our body. So we need to make sure we're hydrating, right? And so you want a water solution. So not just water storage, but water filtration, because that's the hardest thing to keep on hand. I mean, who can keep a few thousand gallons of water on hand?
Yeah, it's not practical by any means in our society. Now, if you have a pond outside your house, like used to on the farms back in the days, then yeah, fantastic. But you've got to have those plans. Looks like we've got a caller
Let's
here.
take us to the caller. Hey, caller, we got a couple minutes before the break. You have a comment on water?
No, it's about survival, though.
Yeah.
It's about a video I saw on YouTube about a guy who was in Bosnia, and he was 2 years without power and water in his story.
Wow.
I think I'm from. Is it set back in like the 50s or 60s or before then?
Well, it was during the latest war, is what I assumed.
Okay,
I
so
don't,
it's more
I don't
recent,
remember
okay.
him telling a year, to be honest with you.
I have heard some stories, yeah, where it's extremely difficult.
Tell you what,
situation.
are you on social media? Are you on Facebook at all?
I am not.
You're not? Dang it. I was going to say if you could post it to our Facebook page, but I guess you can't do that if you're not on there.
I think I know which story he's talking about. I'll look it up and we'll
try to find it
try
and
to
post
find
it
it and
later
share it
today
on
for
there.
you
Yeah,
guys that are listening. Thank you so much.
The thing he kept saying is the thing you need most is a gun and some ammo. All right, have a great day, guys.
All right, thank
Enjoy
you.
your show.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with that, and we'll get to that eventually. That is one of the prepper basics: is defense, is protection. We'll get to that. I don't know if we'll get to that today, but water, obviously, and we talk about water a lot, and I don't think we can overemphasize the need for water filtration, water purification, water storage.
Yeah, I mean, even just keeping an extra gallon of water with you in your car. Obviously, you take it in at night, bring it back out in the morning when you're driving around. But keeping extra hydration solutions with you, because if and when something bad happens, you're going to need to hydrate first and foremost.
Now, what about eating snow?
Now, snow is like, what, 1/7
Yeah,
the amount
it's
of water.
not nearly as much water in it, and it takes calories to break that down to water.
Correct. So you're burning calories, so you're losing calories because your body's got to heat it up so that it can actually use it. It has to get it to the core temperature to match your body before it can actually use that water and absorb that water. Otherwise, it's just sitting in your stomach cold, waiting.
Yeah. Now, if you're out in the wilderness, you've been snowmobiling, you got stuck, and it's a true survival situation. Probably not a good idea to eat snow, unless if you got plenty of body heat, if you got food, you've got calories. Then yes, you hear a lot of people say, "Don't eat the snow in a survival situation because it'll kill you." Well, yes, that's true, but it's also arguable because if you have food, if your body heat is good and you're hiking, you're warm, and it's not critical, yeah, eat snow to get water. If you don't have another source of water, it is best to have a stove and to melt that first and use that to melt the snow.
Let's throw the scenario out there that you are backpacking.
Mm-hmm.
You are snowmobiling would be the easiest. If the snowmobile still turns on, hopefully you've got a small steel container in your bag that you have your water in. You could drink all that water, fill it with snow, set it on the engine, turn the engine on, and let it just heat up off the engine.
Yeah.
Let something else do the work for you, right? The other thing is there's ultralight little stoves that you can throw in your bags, and those are so great. So I would recommend getting something like that to take with you.
Butane, little butane canister.
Or even a rocket stove, right? The fully collapsible ones, they're great.
Yeah, that's true.
We're running to a break. Thank you for listening to Prepper Talk Radio. We got one more segment. We'll be right back, but we're brought to you by survival-medical.com. The only first aid kit tougher than nature. Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio on K-Talk AM 630. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter. You can find us at KTKK on Twitter and K-Talk Utah on Facebook.
K-Talk Utah, yep.
So we are the new K-Talk Media, updated on the website. Check it out. A lot of new resources. It's got the weather report, however wrong our meteorologists in the location here of Utah may be.
But I must say it is the truth media.
It is the truth
media. We're not the alternate media. We're the truth media.
We are the correct media. We got another caller. Let's bring the caller online. Hey, thanks for joining K-Talk. You're on the air talking about survival, rule of three. What else have you got for us?
Actually, I'm wondering if I can talk to you guys off air.
Sure. You'll have to wait for our next break. Do you want me to put you on hold for a while?
Or you can call back? Or,
I'm actually at work. Is there a way to reach you otherwise?
Oh, we're the only ones in the studio right now talking live. So if you get on Facebook, are you on Facebook? Maybe
yes.
Maybe send us a message there. Go to PrepperCon or go to
Prepper Talk Radio.
Prepper Talk, yeah.
Prepper Talk Radio.
Yep. And you send us a message. We'll give you a call back.
All right, great. I
Perfect.
appreciate
it.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Survival rule of three. So we've talked a little bit about water, water storage, water filters. We haven't talked about.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about water storage in the home and water filtration, because you need to have a plan on how to get more water, because you can only, like we mentioned, we can only store so much water, but you really need minimum requirements for water. You can get away with, a gallon is really minimum, but you can get away with less if you're just drinking water. You're not preparing food or
bathing
or cleaning.
Sanitation, but sanitation's a killer if you're not taking care of it.
Absolutely. So you really need to have at least 2 gallons per person per day for sanitation, cooking, drinking, and so forth.
And if you have only freeze-dried food, you need 3 gallons.
Oh yeah, you need lots
because
of
you're going to go through a lot of water reconstituting all that freeze-dried or dehydrated foods. So don't bank that. We'll talk about more food storage issues later, but look at your water situation. Make sure you have a surplus that'll get you through a few weeks.
So I've said before, I like to take 2-liter bottles and store up a couple of weeks worth of water. It can be difficult to change those out once a year, to empty them and to refill them. And the bottles aren't the most durable material, but I think that's a good option. Great place to start.
Well, I think one of the simplest ways is actually creating a rotation system where you pull that bottle out of storage, put it in your fridge, and that's your drinking water.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then you put your next bottle back in the back of the line and move everything forward. Right? You're rotating it. Then you don't have to empty all of them at once and refill them all.
Like I've tried.
Do it like the 7-Eleven does it. New stuff in the front, old stuff.
That's true.
Or new stuff in the back,
rotate your water.
Old stuff in the front, and use it.
Yeah, and of course I like the large tanks for homes. I have a couple of totes which are inexpensive, food grade storage totes, a couple 100 gallons each. But I really like, and I'm not pitching a brand, but I really like the water prepared tanks.
Those are amazing.
They're really cool. They fit through your door. You can put them in your basement, put them in your home instead of in the garage. I'd like to be able to park in my garage again someday which I can't right now.
Nice stream.
Yes. So I've got just too much stuff in there, too much prepping stuff. So when I get another daughter that moves out of the house, not that I'm encouraging her at any time to move out.
Slow down, Dad.
Exactly. So that will give me another room in the house where I can fill it full of water tanks.
And these are great because it's a non-leaching plastic resin, right?
Yeah.
So that you're not going to have to worry about concrete if it's directly on the concrete.
And they are stackable. And
definitely stack them before you fill them.
They also have, yes, absolutely. You're not going to move that thing. But they also have an additive, which is a copper-silver type of purifying agent. I'm not sure exactly what it's called.
It's in the interior wall of the resin.
Okay, well, this is something you add to the tank, and then you don't need to change your water for 5 years.
Okay.
With that. So it's something that they provide. I forget the brand name of it.
Sweet.
But it purifies it. It keeps it clean, drinkable for
so it's not in the wall.
5 years.
The wall stuff
it does have an
component.
Antimicrobial agent
an antimicrobial agent
in the plastic
itself, which
is
also a non-leaching
right.
material, which is what keeps it safe. The old homes, you'd have leaching problems with your concrete. The newer homes, the concrete's made different so that you can use just about anything, but if you're going to use something, you want to use something that's easier to move around, that's stackable. The 55-gallon barrels, I've got a few of those outside.
Yeah.
I've just got to keep them in an area that they're not going to get a lot of sunlight
but
also that they're not going to freeze. So I've got them by the dryer exhaust during the winter.
Oh, okay.
So it gives me some, heat.
And it is hard for a large mass of water like that to freeze completely.
Correct. But I don't want it to bust a seal.
Yeah.
Right.
But also keep in mind you've got to put these where you can more easily drain and refill them.
Exactly.
Whereas, if you have a furnace room where you've got a floor drain there, that could be your place where you're going to drain it, or a bathroom.
And get a little siphon hose so you can just get it started, pump it out, and then let it flow on its own.
Hey, you want to make it as easy as possible. Otherwise, you're just not going to change that water as often as you should.
Yep. And if it's sat there for a long time, don't worry. You can always filter it again
that's
when
true.
you're using it. If you can't
purify it a little bit,
quickly.
make it taste a little bit better. And some of maybe the old school thought is, okay, I'm going to fill up a bottle. I'm going to put a few drops of Clorox in there. The truth is that there's usually enough chlorine in our tap water, in our city water, that you don't need to do that.
As well as other stuff that's going to kill you.
Well, yes.
So be careful.
Hopefully not fluoride. So but I still wouldn't probably filter water before I put it in a bottle. Then your bottle's got to be completely pure, clean, and sterilized.
Do it when you're pulling it out.
Yeah, just
do it when you're pulling
use the
it out.
tap water.
So, okay. I think we're good on water.
Yeah.
So if you want to see those buckets we were talking, or not buckets, those containers we talked about, waterprepared.com. They've got a great website, great resource.
And then make a plan on how to get more.
Yeah. Always work on more. I see people spend, $1,000 on a 3-month supply of food storage, but they won't spend $200 on a good water solution. Right?
Yeah.
Get the water solution taken care of first.
Yeah.
Then get your food storage. Because if you're buying all this powdered food storage, you're screwed. So let's talk about that. So the next rule of 3 is actually you can survive 3 weeks without food. Now, I read a story of a guy that did 100 days without food. He lost almost 100 pounds
just
over
water.
that time. And he just did water and 2 vitamins a day.
Wow.
And he did it as a science experiment in the UK, lost a ton of weight. It caused some problems in his liver had some issues. His kidneys had some issues when he was done.
I would think so.
Because they weren't used the way they're supposed to be. They started to shut down.
Them off.
And so he has harder times with certain things, but he survived quite a while. I could probably go 5 or 6 weeks, possibly. I'd be extremely hangry. But the key is this: is as long as you're hydrating first, you're going to be able to withstand things a little bit better. And you want passive solutions as much as possible. That's why food storage is so important, because it becomes a passive solution. You've got something you can eat that you don't have to go harvest yourself.
Or hunt for it. Because if you're hungry and you're dehydrated and you got to go out and hunt for your food, or you've got to go harvest it, that's going to make life much more difficult because you're expending calories.
Absolutely. So I always recommend, I like a couple different things. I like to mix my food storage.
Okay.
I've got kind of the MRE type packs of food. Not a true MRE, but kind of a quick and easy. And those meals last usually up to about 5 years.
Yep.
I've also got the freeze-dried and dehydrated foods. I've also got a ton of canned foods, which that's kind of my favorite. Your pantry.
Yeah.
Right? It's the stuff you're always eating. That's the stuff you want to be storing. But then I've also got the food blocks, the SOS food bars. I throw a couple of those in every car because to me, I like them. They taste like a sugar cookie.
They're not bad.
Not the best, but they're better than nothing.
Keep you from being hangry.
It keeps me from being hangry, and the people around me really appreciate that. So I've got a couple different things. So I've got those in every little 72-hour or 96-hour kit, as well as a couple of the meals, right? Mm-hmm. So that because the meal's more for me for psychological reasons, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It improves my state of mind because I'm actually sitting down having a real meal. And you want to keep things as normal as possible in a survival situation.
You need to be able to snack on things. You need to be able to have some of those sweets and those treats that you can satisfy yourself while you're maybe harvesting or while you're hunting or while you're preparing other foods or while you're grinding wheat.
Vacuum seal hard candies in a container. I mean, there's so many things you can be doing.
That's great. It's a great way.
Oh, wow. We got a couple callers. Let's take caller line 3. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air.
Yeah. Hey, you're talking about good food storage and preparation?
Yeah.
There's one thing preppers just kind of overlook. They worry so much about water, and that's a very easy thing to fix.
Okay.
I had a friend of mine who created one of these units. He just used like an old water cooler type unit, a shell casing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He put in it a 2-stage water filtration system and a dehumidifier.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull humidity right out of the air. He built a unit that used about
and
quarter of the... Go ahead.
I would say there are units that are available. You can buy these things. The problem here in Utah is we're very low humidity. And even these most efficient ones don't work very well. But they will work to some extent. But
he was using 1/4 of the electricity of a refrigerator,
mm-hmm.
and he was pulling in about 5 gallons of water a day.
And was that here in Utah?
Yeah, that was right here in Ogden.
Oh, very cool.
Awesome.
He even took that unit down to Vegas, where
mm-hmm.
it's really low
really
humidity.
dry.
And he was still putting about 2.5 gallons in
I would love to see that.
And and that was actually a small unit. He had it sitting right in his living room.
Mm-hmm.
And he says this is not even an efficient unit.
Well, think about it.
In fact,
if you've got like a window air conditioner, you got something hanging out your window, and it's blowing cold air into the house, and it's dripping moisture off the back side of it. It's condensing all the moisture from the air, and it's leaking out the back, so it's not getting water in the house, and that's why they hang out the window.
Oh yeah.
So that's the same concept that I assume you're talking about. Maybe that one is a little more efficient or specific to just condensation, and not just creating a cold air. But yeah, absolutely. There's rain barrels. I've got a couple of rain barrels on my house to catch what little rain Utah gets, to use it for gardening or flushing toilets or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of options, and that's part of the plans I think we need to put together. How close am I to a spring?
Oh, yeah.
I live near the foothills. I can be to a spring in 30 minutes. I can hike over to the Provo River in it's about 3 miles.
I've got a 5-minute walk to a creek and a 12-minute walk to a retention pond.
There you go. Yeah. Make those plans. Find out where those resources are, and if you can start building, whether it's to collect condensation, you can build these. What am I thinking?
I don't know.
Yeah,
you've got this fun blank look on your face. You've actually stumped.
My
Shane.
mind is going
to give
too
fast.
fast.
A pat on the back.
My mouth cannot keep up with it.
This is a rarity.
Yeah. So, what am I thinking?
Yeah,
solar still. That's what I'm thinking about. To make that to collect that condensation from your backyard or wherever. So there's lots of different ways you can do this.
Oh yeah, but he showed. He says for the electricity that 2 refrigerators use, He showed how you can do the entire water needs for a family, for including a drip system for a small garden or greenhouse. He says, yeah.
Has he done a video on this?
That could easily be done with solar.
Yeah.
Well, the guy knew that did this. He started a patent pending, but then he contracted cancer and he passed away. I don't think anyone's ever taken up the patent, but he says he was showing. He says you can build this unit for about $500.
I'll do some digging online, see what I can find. We'll put it on our Facebook page, because that's.
But yeah, he says, and he just went through Sears. I used to live back east in Illinois, and I noticed that everyone that had a basement had this unit sitting in the corner, and I'm going, what is that? And they said, that's a dehumidifier. Mm-hmm. They said, we have so much humidity here that we have to pull it out of the air in the basement, or we just have mold and fungus everywhere.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd have these big 3-gallon things that would be dumped. You'd have to dump it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just going, oh, wow, that's amazing.
That
Create
is
that much
awesome.
water. And they says, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
and
also-
those were teeny tiny condensers.
Yeah, and also think, of course, back east there's a lot more humidity. There's a lot more rainfall, and
There is.
And so, but yeah, Utah is
Yeah,
definitely.
my friends showed you can still do it here in Utah.
It's doable.
You use a little more
Absolutely.
electricity. It works a little harder, but you can make it work.
Very cool.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so
Great
much for your
call.
call.
Thank you very much.
Awesome content.
Thanks.
So yeah, there's so many different solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you hear us talk about 1 or 2 or maybe 5 different types of things,
Mm-hmm.
those aren't the only solutions. I love this last call because it brings to mind how resourceful we can be as a race.
Mm-hmm.
We can create solutions, and there's solutions out there that no one's using yet, no one's thought of.
Yeah, and put that knowledge in your head now, so that
Yep.
when it becomes a critical time, that you say, "Oh yeah, I can do this."
Practice it, use it, teach
There you
your
go.
kids what to do, because it's going to come to a point where you have to use those skills and resources, and if you haven't built them, you have no tool set.
It instills confidence. It abates fear. Yeah, good stuff. Good
Absolutely.
stuff. All right, only got like a minute left, so we'll have to probably come back and address maybe a little more food storage in the future. In this next week.
We'll do a few shows
Yeah.
specific to each rule.
Okay.
But I think the final thought on food storage I think really needs to be is it needs to be things that your family will eat,
Mm-hmm.
right? If your kids will only eat macaroni and cheese, you've got a challenge on your hands. But don't store everything but macaroni and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure it's something that's quick and easy to put together.
Yeah.
If they love peaches, get jars of peaches.
At least have some things that are quick and easy, and then stock up on the bulk supplies,
Yeah.
so that you can satisfy yourself. You can satisfy your immediate needs while beginning to prepare. I know, because it takes a while to prepare to break bread from wheat. You gotta grind it. It's a lot of work.
You gotta have
and if you're
yeast,
hungry, you need to have something to feed yourself in the meantime while you're working on those other preparations.
And I love as much passive as possible. I mean, that's why we had a conversation a few weeks ago with Sky Gardens.
Yeah, I gotta get
vertical
me one of
gardens
those.
are great.
I gotta get me one of those.
Having seeds ready to grow is great.
In the safety, security of your own home.
Yeah, but if you can have in your backyard or in your house a growing solution, that's not going to feed you right away unless it's up and running all the time. But having a solution for those things, for your food, the other things we want to talk about really are just make sure that you're getting an education. Getting an education on preparedness, on resourcefulness.
And your mind's open to it.
Because if you're not
aware,
none of these rules matter to you. If you're not learning, if you're not engaging in some type of education, be it informal or formal for yourself to get better prepared, you're going to be in a really bad situation. What are you doing, Shane?
We're into our break here.
Wow. Peter didn't tell us.
Yes.
All right, we're in our break. Thanks for
Winter has
listening.
just begun, and are
Adios.
you already tired of being cold?